Michael Saylor doesn't give a damn about the country. He just wants to prop up the price of Bitcoin. He's just talking up Bitcoin. He doesn't care how much damage he has to do to the U.S. economy. But it's not digital gold either, because it's got nothing in common with gold. Yet despite that, you hear all these asinine statements being made. It means nothing. He thinks, the U.S. is going to own the world. We're going to rule the world with 25% of nothing. It wouldn't be worthless. It'd be even more valuable when the U.S. government no longer owned it.
Should the U.S. sell all its gold to buy Bitcoin? That's what some Bitcoin advocates are suggesting, but Peter Schiff is here to set the record straight. In this video, Schiff explains why Bitcoin is not digital gold and why betting on it could lead to a financial meltdown. He breaks down how companies are taking on massive debt to buy Bitcoin, why these risks are unsustainable, and why gold remains the ultimate store of value. If you're wondering whether Bitcoin can truly replace gold, this is a must-watch. Get ready for the facts, not the hype.
Of course, again, nobody is paying attention to gold. Nobody's paying attention to silver. Even fewer people are paying attention to the mining stocks because they're just paying attention to Bitcoin. They had that 100,000 party. Bitcoin got above 100,000. It didn't stay there for long. It's back below it. In fact, I think it's around 96,000 now, but it's still pretty close. But, the main reason it's still so high is because of Michael Saylor, who just announced this morning another 2.1 billion spent buying Bitcoin. That's 13.6 billion he's spent since November 1st. And now he's got this other company, Mara, that just announced, I think today or yesterday, it just spent another $1.1 billion buying Bitcoin. You've got these companies that are levering up their balance sheet, issuing debt to buy Bitcoin. And again, the institutions that are lending them the money don't want to buy Bitcoin. They don't want to take the risk. They think they've got a freebie. They think they've got a free ride on Bitcoin by buying these convertible notes. They're hoping to cash in a big profit when either Mara or MicroStrategy shares go up, and they want to sell with a big gain. But they expect that if the stocks go down because Bitcoin goes down, well, they just get their money back, right? Because they're creditors. They're guaranteed their money back. Well, they're not guaranteed anything if MicroStrategy can't pay or Mara can't pay, which they won't be able to do if the price of Bitcoin goes way down, which ultimately it is going to do, especially when all the buyers really, it's our MicroStrategy and Mara and a lot of these ETFs, which are all speculators. This is all spec money. Nobody is buying these companies to use Bitcoin as money, to use it as a medium of exchange. That was the entire purpose for which it was created. Go read the Satoshi white paper. They had to reinvent it as digital gold because it failed at its primary objective, because it can't do it. But it's not digital gold either, because it's got nothing in common with gold. Yet despite that, you hear all these asinine statements being made. Michael Saylor now is advocating. I'm not making this up. I just heard the interview. He's saying that he wants the U.S. government to sell all of its gold, 100% of it, and buy 25% of the Bitcoin in the world, like all just bought up by the U.S. government. And he claims that if the U.S. government does this, it'll make gold worthless. We'll demonetize gold and bankrupt all of our enemies who own gold. Well, first of all, if we're going to make gold worthless by selling it, how are we going to use it to buy 25% of the world's Bitcoin, right? So it doesn't even make any sense. But what good would it be to own 25% of the world's Bitcoin? It means nothing. He thinks, the U.S. is going to own the world. We're going to rule the world with 25% of nothing. We're going to be the laughing stock of the world if we did that. And meanwhile, our trading partners would scoop up that gold. It wouldn't be worthless. It'd be even more valuable when the U.S. government no longer owned it. It's the most asinine idea to suggest that. But again, Michael Saylor doesn't give a damn about the country. He just wants to prop up the price of Bitcoin. He's just talking up Bitcoin. He doesn't care how much damage he has to do to the U.S. economy. That's why a recent post I put on X, I said that Bitcoin is now a national security threat. It's public enemy number one. It's one thing if people want to be dumb enough and put their own money in Bitcoin. I don't care. People can lose money if they want. It's not good for society because we could use those resources productively. But if in a free country, people can waste their money. I mean, there's nothing I can do about it. People have a right to do dumb things. That's what freedom is all about. Now, we'd be better off if people did smart things with their money, but sometimes they do dumb things and they'll learn a lesson. But it's a completely different ballgame when you're talking about government using the public money, where politicians have been bribed to go out and buy Bitcoin. Just to do what? I mean, I was watching Larry Summers. At least, he was asked about this idea about a Bitcoin strategic reserve. He said it's the craziest thing he's ever heard. He says, why should we want to buy Bitcoin and just hold it forever just to prop up the price of Bitcoin and enrich a bunch of people who made donations to the Trump campaign? I mean, that is the only purpose of it. Remember, the Loomis bill not only requires the U.S. government to spend to buy a million Bitcoin, but it requires the government to hodl it for 20 years and never sell it, which of course defeats the whole purpose of having a reserve. How can you have a reserve that you could never sell, right? The purpose of a reserve for currency is you can sell it to defend your currency if you have to. But if you've already committed to never selling it for 20 years, then it's worthless as a reserve. And of course, if you could sell it, the price would crash, which also makes it worthless as a reserve. The only good thing is that this bill really has no chance of becoming law. If you look, Senator Loomis, who introduced it, there's no co-sponsored in this thing. None of the Democrats are going to vote for it. Well, there's just one guy in the House from Silicon Valley. He said that he was in favor of it. But I looked through the internet. I can't find anybody who's come out in favor of this bill. There's one somebody in Pennsylvania has introduced a bill on a state level to have the state of Pennsylvania have a Bitcoin reserve. I mean, they need that like a hole in the head. But again, I don't think the legislatures are actually going to pass any of this nonsense. And, that's really what they're trying to do. It's just the specter of it, the possibility has got people excited. And so people are buying, but the smart money is selling. A lot of people have been selling Bitcoin. Why do you think it didn't stay above 100,000? Somebody sold it. I put this out on X today, or not today. I think it was yesterday. And it shows you none of the Bitcoin crowd even understood what I was saying. But gold, the first gold ETF started 20 years ago. And there's a bunch of them now. But the first one was 20 years ago. And so over the past 20 years, if you look at all the gold that all these ETFs own, it's about 1.6% of the above ground supply of gold. That's it. 1.6% in 20 years. That's all they've been able to buy. Now, if you look at how much they own relative to the trading every day of gold, it's about 1 day's volume. So basically, if all of the gold ETFs in the world liquidated all their gold on the same day, the market would absorb it. I mean, gold might be down a bit, maybe it'd be down $100. I don't know, but the market would absorb the selling, all of it, no problem. Look at what's happened just this year with these Bitcoin ETFs. I think the Bitcoin ETFs, along with MicroStrategy and Mara, right? They own at least 8% of the Bitcoin already. Not just, like above ground, like gold, because there's gold in the ground that is not owned by these ETFs, but they own 8% of all the Bitcoin that will ever exist, right? All 21 million, right? They've already amassed 8% of it, and it hasn't even been a full year. I mean, at the rate they're going, they're going to gobble up all this Bitcoin. I mean, how scarce could it be when it was this easy for these ETFs and these companies to buy up so much Bitcoin? Somebody was willing to unload their Bitcoin on these entities. And again, these entities that own it, they're not married to it. This is a trade. They're expecting to sell. They're wanting to cash out. If you look at the total amount of Bitcoin held by these institutions, ETFs, it's over 10 times the daily trading volume. So if there's ever a big liquidation out of the Bitcoin ETFs, look out below. There is no depth to this market. Right now, they're all hoping that it's the government that's going to bail everybody out, right? A government bailout of Bitcoin, because the government is going to use the power of the state to coercively force people to buy Bitcoin that they don't want to buy, right? But it's not going to happen, right? Everybody is setting themselves up for something that's not going to happen. Meanwhile, the Trump family, yeah, they're out there pushing it. Eric Trump, I saw he made a speech at a Bitcoin conference in Abu Dhabi today or yesterday, whatever it was. I was actually invited to that conference. They offered to pay my airfare first class, put me up in a hotel. They even offered a small honorarium.
Thanks for tuning in to this eye-opening analysis by Peter Schiff. If you found value in this breakdown of Bitcoin versus gold, don't forget to like the video, share it with others, and hit that subscribe button for more insights on the financial world. Got questions or thoughts? Drop them in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Stay informed, stay prepared, and we'll see you in the next video.